You know, I don't like the question who you are. Okay, so we'll
I don't like it either, so
I
it's fine.
hate
So
it.
what do you do? What do you do?
Yeah, what I do, because this is different from who I am.
Yes, that's true.
Uh, I have been working with the students in what I would call constructionist learning environment. And by construction, it's things like the Lego educational robots, electronics kits, tinkering kits, and all those things. I have been working for 13 years, and since 2006 and 2011, I was developing courses and curriculum for international entities. And then from 2011, I had my own company where we were coaching students from school school students on those kits and so on. So the
Okay.
purpose or the context I am working in is STEM education mainly,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and STEM activities. And my focus is for students who are from K to 12
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
pre-university. And I was motivated for this work because I love engineering and I'm an engineer actually. Uh, and my master degree is in engineering before the Master of Arts in Tartu. So as someone motivated to engineering, I wanted to work with other students on science and engineering activities.
Okay, thank you very much. Very, very nice presentation.
Okay.
So when it comes to tinkering, you have written your thesis about the makers movement and also about tinkering,
Yeah.
but perhaps we can skip that part because your thesis is anyway available. It's online, so if anybody is interested can have a look at it. Perhaps now we can start our conversation about what is the meaning of tinkering in your own practice, in your own teaching practice. So when it comes to all the activities that you mentioned before, and perhaps you can mention something like some examples to start with.
Okay. So when it comes to tinkering, I used to see it as how we can use our own knowledge, something we already know, and our logic, our skills, our intuition to move from a certain point to another.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe most of my perception to tinkering uh, wasn't um, wasn't built or constructed during my work with the students. Maybe most of it got formed and developed during my years as an engineer or as a researcher. I think this is how it got formed. And maybe I used the same way with the students whom I was coaching. Um, because I didn't study something related to education before coaching students. So I used my intuition here, and I used my experience as an engineer more than I relied on educational studies background.
So you've been adopting the same style. You've been adopting with your students the same style that you had when you were yourself a student, an
Maybe
engineering student.
yes, maybe yes, and maybe what happened is not all the engineers, my colleagues, were adopting the same way. Maybe I was focusing on how to see how we should be studying engineering. I was looking more about how we perceive, how we interact, how we react, how we are progressing in our projects, and so on. And that was
Okay.
the
Yeah.
seed that let me start after that to start coaching students. I mean, even in 2006. So I was discussing this with my engineering professors. I was going to them, so I had those discussions around perception, how to perceive engineering
Yeah.
knowledge. So this is how it started. So back to tinkering, as I said, it's how you use all you know, all your skills to move from a certain point to another.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe you can make an example. You can tell us about an example in which you're actually using tinkering, not with yourself, but with your students. So you
Okay.
mentioned robots, Lego robots before. Do you have any example coming from those learning activities with students, which
For
would?
example, one of our famous activities is asking students to build robots who could play tug the war.
Mm-hmm.
We just set the challenge, give them limited resources, which is the Lego parts, and we start to ask them to build their own robots.
Lego
Okay.
robots.
Yes.
Okay, so you
Now
give
we
them
put specifications. We ask them that this robot to play tug the war, it should move forward and backward. This is the minimum. And it should have a little bit high friction and things like that. So the students start to take the materials and they start to talk together in teams and think how they can build this robot.
So what you do is you provide some resources, and you tell them that they have to build a robot the way they want, provided that the robot can at least go forward and backward.
Yes, because in tug the war, what you do is you take the rope that way, and it's pulling and pushing. So
Yeah.
so the
Pulling and
robot should
pushing.
be so the robot should be able to move forward and backward.
Okay. Okay.
And then they discover other things when they try the robots. They discover the importance of friction, of the weight, and other things.
Yeah,
When
but
they
this is yeah, I
Yeah,
understand.
but
But
this is
basically, the
they reach
basic
this on the end, not now,
so the
not on
basic
this.
thing is that you
It should
give them resources and then this challenge. So and
Yes.
what happens, because one thing that you told me in the past was this, that that one way to approach this is even when the challenge is the same, some teachers usually give instructions as to how to build the robots. Some other teachers or coaches provide the students with the robots already ready to be used. So what is your approach instead?
So my approach, I think, is tinkering. So I let them, I let them. There is no other word. I let them start to think how they can do it, and then after 10 minutes, usually this is what I have received for more than 8 years. They come and ask for instructions. The students come and ask for instructions because they are used to follow instructions and they want to escape from the frustration or failure.
So what
Uh,
happens? So what happens after 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes? So they are left on their own with
yeah,
all these spare parts,
yeah,
and then what happens is that after 10 days, after 10
yeah,
minutes, they come
yeah,
to you asking,
yeah.
please
For
give
help,
us
help.
help.
Give us instructions. Give
Why
us
is
a
it so?
catalog, a
Why is
manual,
it
or
so?
something.
Yeah.
Uh,
Why is it so?
because they don't want to for two reasons. First, they are not used to use this intuition and logic. They are not used to. Okay, they want to do things fast and from the surface. Okay, and this is really important because, for example, for another example, which might be easier to understand this, my daughter recently started to use her tablet a lot. She's around going to be 9 years old, and she started to use the tablet a lot, not as before, and I can't keep controlling this as before. So we started to notice that the changes on her behavior. Her behavior starts to change. She wants to take things from the surface. When she's studying, she wants to do things like clicking, like as if she's clicking on the tablet. Okay, and I had to take the tablet and use my authority as a mother, as a parent, to take the tablet because she started to be someone else. Her behavior started to change, and I let her do things that she used to do before. Okay, go and color mandala, go and do some craft at your room. Don't keep focusing on just clicking all the time. This behavior disturbs the brain in a way or another. I don't know the reasons, the scientific reasons behind that, but this is an observation. And even my attitude, not as before, because I used to concentrate for like from 6 to 8 hours on mathematics, for example. But now, because of using the smartphone a lot, and my behavior, even me, got changed, and I have sometimes to just throw it away and get a book and keep myself locked
So you get
reading.
fragmented. You get fragmented.
I started to get addicted, and
Do
when
you think?
I
So do you think that this is what happens also with your students, that you give them
yeah, they need to
this
take
task
something from the surface. They are used to do things just like that from the surface, not deep, not to
deeply?
bother themselves, not to get their senses engaged, to
So they
think,
get
to the frustration.
at first they get frustrated because they see that that they cannot move on, that they have to probably put a bigger effort into what they're doing. But then the interesting thing is that they come to you asking for guidance.
But
And
at that stage, they didn't reach frustration yet. They are afraid
okay,
from getting frustrated.
they are afraid.
Okay.
But anyway,
Yeah,
they
they are trying
try
to avoid frustration.
yeah,
Let us say it like that.
they try to reach you out because they want to move forward, and
Mhm.
and as you started saying before, because they are used to getting instructions, or they are used to be instructed.
Actually, in such type of educational kits, the teachers use instructions. Maybe the teachers are not using instructions in
Domain.
other lessons.
Yeah.
Okay, but when it comes to technology and science, they are afraid from doing something wrong.
Who?
And
Teachers or students?
teachers, mainly
Teachers.
teachers, they are
Okay.
afraid to do something wrong because they have a limited time, so they don't have time for trial and error in front of the students.
Okay.
Okay, so they
Themselves,
want
for
things.
themselves. Yeah.
Yes, so they want things just to be to the point and going right, something they tried before, something with very clear steps, so to avoid any troubles in front of the students.
Mm-hmm,
Okay,
mm-hmm.
so that's why this type of lessons, like STEM lessons or inquiry based or whatever things that requires hands-on activities, you will find mostly those activities are taught in instructive way, in the form there is instructions given.
You know, like step by step. And it's actually
Yes,
interesting because we want students to have these hands-on experiences precisely because we want them to take ownership, we want to be active, we want to take responsibility for the learning process. But then we fall back into the step-by-step mode because we see that otherwise things get out of hand. But 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 the students, as you said, are the first who get a bit confused. So after 10 minutes, they come to you and what happens after 10 minutes?
I insist that they are going to do it without a manual. They have to
Mhm.
use, they have to think, they have to observe, they have to use their intuition, their logic, and everything, and they do it in a certain tone and body language that convince them to do so. So, and then they go to their teachers asking them for help, and the teachers always come to me back and tell me how they are going to do it, and I tell her I did it for more than thousands students, and they do
So
it by
so
the
let's
end.
say
They
that
know how to
you
do it.
so let's say that you also have experience, and this allows you to overcome this moment of maybe it's not panic, but a little bit of uncertainty because okay, are we going to fail? Am I going to fail? Luckily, you have experience, so you can take it a little bit easier, and then you're able to basically tell the students, no, please go back to your station or to the resources or to the robot thingy and try to do something. What happens after? What
I
happens?
just would like to add, it's not only about experience,
Yeah.
because I had like a couple of times before I relied on my experience, but I couldn't continue the session. I really felt so tired and I couldn't, because this consumes a lot of my mental power. It needs you to be in a mental state, a ready mental state to coach others. Okay, so if
in this
even if you have,
particular context, in this
yes,
particular
yes,
context of
yes. If I am panicked, distressed, highly tired, I would say if my brain is like a turbulent water and I'm thinking about other things and I can't stop thinking on the moment, focus on the moment where I'm engaged with the students, then I wouldn't be able to coach them. I wouldn't be able to give them the experience.
okay.
I would, okay. So
because since you're trying to avoid giving them instructions as to how to build a robot, so this is the thing, and this requires a specific mindset.
Yes.
Sorry, a state of mind.
Yes,
State of
exactly.
mind.
Exactly.
Particular kind of mood. Okay, but what happens after? So they go back to the robot, and what happens?
Yeah.
What happens after that?
They start to make some designs. Okay. Most probably those maybe one team or two from like 6 teams will be successfully doing it, doing something workable. I mean, and the others will build something maybe looks nice, but it's not functioning. It doesn't do the mission. Like they connect the tire to not to a motor, to a brick. So I can share a photo to make it easier. I can share it from here.
As you wish.
Yeah, it will make things more clear, I think. So I will share it from my laptop. It's fine. So let us take this as an example. You see it?
Yeah.
You see it. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So for example, this is one of the designs that I got stopped at. Okay. It's very simple, but it's workable. Okay. So if I give them the instructions from the beginning and I give them a manual, you would see that the students are building a robot with 4 wheels. That was going to be in the manual, the common design of Lego. Okay. But you see here that they built it using 2 tires, and the 2 tires are put in a irregular way, and it's working forward and backward precisely.
But it's still working.
Precisely, it's doing the mission. It's doing the mission. It is solving the challenge, and they consume the minimum number of bricks that you will think about. Okay, you see here they just use 2 beams. This is the motor, by the way, and this is the brain where the control is. Okay, and they just do it that way. Okay, so at the beginning, how the students do mistakes, you can find them. Other students, I'm not talking about this design. This is a final design. Okay, but if I'm going to pass around the teams, what I can see is this main brick, the controller. Okay, and the motor is not connected to the
wheels.
To the wheels, right? Yes. So what happens is the robot won't move. Okay. So here I start a dialogue with the students, a conversation to let them understand their mistake.
But let me just backtrack. So the first thing that you notice is that the moment in which you can actually stop sharing.
Okay.
Just because then I can see you.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And because if we're not showing something, it's always better to go back to us. So the first thing that, before we come to what you were saying, so one outcome that you see is that the moment in which they overcome this first moment, in which they would like to receive some sort of instructions, when you overcome this, what you see is that, of course, they produce different types of design. Or at least what they come up with is not necessarily the same thing as the traditional robot or what you would see on the box, which is something that I understand that you value.
I value a lot. I value a lot. I put a lot of value on this. This is, for me, is my joy to see different designs. I don't want to see the similar designs. I hate seeing the similar designs. I don't like that. I love to see what the different things. And this put me on another mindset. This is, requires from the teacher another mindset, because that way I let them understand more about science and physics, because I have to think, me as a teacher, I have to think and see why this one worked, why this new design is working, and I have to explain this to the students. And we have, me with the students are learners now from this loop, you know. So I open the door for the students, and the students come out to something new, and then me and the students are now acting as learners, learning with each other, okay, through observation. So I put myself in a learner mood with them. When we start to try the models, okay, I keep observing and talking to them, so, from observer point of view, not from someone who is telling them, okay, this is one, this is two, this three. I'm not just rehearsing
So
something
it's
I
not
knew.
that, so sorry. So what you're saying is that you don't provide students with instructions, but it's not that you go away. What you said is that you engage them in a dialogue as an observer, and
Mm-hmm.
this allows them, first of all, to come up with their own design. Secondly, also to explain what they are doing. And thirdly, to learn together, because of course, you don't know what they're going to come up with. And therefore, it's also for you something unexpected or a kind of surprise. And therefore, you have to adapt to them. You have to adapt and see what they have done and how to proceed then in the particular circumstance you are in.
Exactly. This is non-boring setup.
So it's not also, I mean, it's not boring for you, and it's not boring for them.
Yes, and they feel unique. Every team feel unique. Feel that they did something different, something recognizable. They, you know.
Okay, so this is the first thing. So those who are successfully accomplished the mission have this advantage, or you have this situation happening in which they come up with their own design. You can engage them in talking about what they did, and at the same time, it is also something surprising for you. So you become a sort of learner. So you are learning with them, along with them. But what happens? What happens when, after this sort of moment in which they don't know what to do, they ask for instruction, you send them back. What if something bad happens? What
Here
if
I interfere. I have to interfere sometimes with certain students. I have to
so?
go
But you
ahead
said
and show
so.
them things and do another. So we have those students who keep innovating, creating, and so on. And there
Yeah.
are students who keep stumbling, and they need help. In that case, I make sure that they need help. I leave them until I make sure that they didn't have any kind of previous experience that allow them to take this step, okay, to take this step forward. So I have to unleash their fear. I have
So
to be with them.
what happens is that uh, they go back to their station. You see that they are failing. They fail once. They fail twice, and then you intervene. So you are always observing, always going around, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
you
that
see
is
that.
this is exactly what I do. I
Okay,
keep
so
going
so
on.
you monitor, but at some
Yes,
point
yes.
you see that some people, some of the students are actually failing. So what do you do exactly in those situations?
In that case, I have to tell them how to think, you know, how to act,
So you still
not to think,
don't give
how to act,
instructions. So you still
how
don't
to
give them.
act. No, not a model, not a model at all. I don't give
Okay.
them instructional model
Yeah, yeah,
steps. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
I act as if I am one of the team, okay? And me even come with a new design that I didn't do before. What's the
Okay.
problem? Okay.
Okay. So you
So I
step.
act as if I am a kid. I set myself to the reset mode. I reset my brain and I work as a team member.
So
I
that's
do
why
that.
you said that's why you said that in order to coach them, you have to be in a specific state of mind,
Yes.
because you should be very responsive to the very situation at
Yes.
hand.
I have to be focusing on the power of now. I have to be
Yeah.
focusing on the moment. I have to shut everything out of my mind, and my whole world would be this classroom I am in.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And what is fascinating is, whenever I do this workshop, I find if there are parents, you would see them going to do the job, jumping to do the job. if there are teachers, they would jump to do the job with themselves. Okay, so this scene, I always stop at it. When I see teachers, the kids are around the teacher, and the teacher is the one taking the parts, and she is acting like a kid. She wants to try, and she's not doing it good, in a good way. She doesn't have, I mean, she doesn't have an experience to build it as I want, but she wants to try as a kid. So this child and kid who would like to try is in every one of us, but is waiting just for a chance, someone to just open it and tell you it's okay. Even if you fail, I am here. I will tell you what to do if you failed. So don't worry. So this is my rule, okay? And everyone just enjoys the trial. And I mentioned this case study in the third, that was mentioned in my third case study in the thesis. And for example, in one of the European countries, and when I came back, I came for 2 days. And the second day, one of the teachers, he started to understand my way. He was like a little bit suspicious in the first day, but in the second day, he started to understand what I am doing. So he was very, very happy. And when he entered to the second class, the students came to him and asked him for steps. He told them, no, you won't take steps. You will be able to do it. And he repeated my way again, because he saw an experience, a whole experience in front of his eyes, where yes, the kids can do it. He can understand, even if he, as an adult, he can do it as well, you know. So
your approach, sorry to interrupt you. So your approach is this: no steps, even when you see that there are issues. You step in as a co-learner, as any other learner, and then you try, as you said. Sometimes you together have come up with a new sort of design. So now this is your approach. In another conversation that we had, you once mentioned one thing that I would like to bring out now, which is about the value of making mistakes. Now, mistakes are important, but of course they can be important for different reasons. One of the things that you said, and I would like you to elaborate on, is this: when we make mistakes, we are in contact with reality. So in other words, the very important thing about making mistakes is that you are actually dealing with the very thing. Whereas if you don't make mistakes because you are following instructions, then what you're learning as a learner is to follow instructions. You fail to be engaged with the very thing, which is, in this case, is robots, how to make them go backward and forward. So can you tell me a little bit more about the fact that you value mistakes, because in this way we avoid to create an artificial situation.
Okay, and I think it's not mistakes more than like you are teaching students troubleshooting. So if you
troubleshooting, yes,
yeah, if you and this is a skill which is supposed to be taught in educational systems. Okay, because life is not moving straight forward. We know that. Okay, so after you graduate from school, you won't find everything systematic as in school. Your mother is doing to you the breakfast and you go here and you go do. No, things won't work like that. Let us be realistic. So this way, if the students are taught all the time during school days that everything is systematic, okay, everything is designed for them within a system.
And just follow the instructions, just following step by step.
By the way, even if it's not that traditional schooling, although traditional schooling systems are full of troubleshooting that the students are trying to come around every day, when we come with democratic schools or other type of schools, it's a system on in itself. So we have to see that, because you convinced the students that when they go to life, everyone is going to value their opinion. They are free to do what they want. You make a fictional situation, and this is not true. Everyone know that won't be true, because there will always be different mentalities and different cultures and different countries with different education, and you have to deal with all of them. How you are going to reach a global citizen who is able to deal with different cultures and situations. And he used all his time in school time that everyone listens to him, value him, he is free to do, and the inner peace. And the world is not full of inner peace.
So
You
what
know,
you're
you see,
saying is that the importance of troubleshooting comes down to one thing, that life is messy. Life is messy, and if you withdraw from life because of this messiness, that you won't be able to grow. Whereas actually, if you're able to cope with the messiness of the world, then you are better prepared.
it's not coping with the mess. It's how you come with something out of the mess.
Yeah.
Coping with the mess would require that I accept things which I don't want to accept. But going out of the mess is something else.
So,
Okay?
so in this case, we can say the tinkering doesn't lead you to coping with the system. It's not this passive adaptation to the system or to the environment in this case, since you have used the system in another way. Whereas tinkering is you are active and you transform your situation by accepting the mess, by even exploiting that things are not straightforward or they don't proceed in a linear way.
Yes, exactly. This is how you jump over the mess. And even I mentioned this paragraph, I believe in the thesis, if you would like the students to be raised to solve climate challenges, it won't be solved in a straightforward. You have to address the political issue, you have to address this and this and that and this and this and that. And so just don't be looking at a straightforward, now students, we are going to solve the climate challenge, and give them something which is not realistic at all and convince them that they are changing the universe that way. Be realistic with yourself and with the students. Okay, so it needs to raise the students to be able to be divergent thinkers, not a convergent thinkers who just focus on a certain point in the picture and forget the whole picture. They have to balance between just focusing in one point and the whole and the whole picture. I'm not saying that they have to be non-focused. I'm not saying that, but they have to be able to balance, not to be naive, not just to focus on a certain small thing and be convinced that they solve it the whole situation by just focusing on that one. But it needs some kind of balance and different techniques. Anyway, I don't want to enter into this
So
argument.
what you're presenting tinkering is the opposite of this step-by-step type of thinking, which is linear, which focuses on certain variables, that tends to also create artificial situations, or as you call them, fictional situations, that are not representative of any of the situations in which students will be in later in life.
I would
And
like to bring here something. I'm sorry
yeah,
for interruption, but
yeah,
I would like to bring here something to make it more clear.
yeah,
When we go and give sessions about inquiry-based learning and we let the students move with the steps, you have to come with an idea and observation, and then you go and try it in the lab, and then you write, and then okay. What if the students come with a certain other way? They discovered something in another way. Okay, we are shutting this door to the students. We convince them that if they are not following those steps, okay, then they are not creating anything scientifically right. Okay, although they imagine the number, I don't stop thinking about it, but imagine the number of students who might be very talented, who can come with really impressive solutions, and they never had a chance to represent those solutions. For example, as I saw you, as we saw together, this robot. Okay, if I came to them with instructions, I will never see this design.
yes,
They will
yes,
never be able to know that they
yes,
can do this design.
yes.
Okay?
And this is
So
sorry, and this is also empowering, because since it's also important that they take responsibility, but they take responsibility for creating something. It's not just that they are responsible as long as they follow the instructions, as long as they are good pupils, but they take responsibilities for creating something that not even you could foresee to a
yes,
large
exactly,
extent,
exactly.
which is also
Yes,
as a way to empower them. So let's perhaps we can talk a little bit about the emotions. that you have observed during those activities in which tinkering is predominantly featured? What are because one thing that we mentioned was teachers' panic or teachers' anxiety, and then the fact that you as a coach should be in a certain state of mind, which is which is basically the ability to be in the here and now. But how about students' emotions? What are the prevalent emotions that you have observed?
I think I shared some videos in my tinkering presentation last year.
Yeah, but the
Okay,
tinkering
but
presentation is not here.
yes, yes, I know. I see. I'm just saying that if they refer to it, they can see the videos. I was
Yeah,
going to comment. I was going to answer. You know what? Okay, but what I would like to say that when you are frustrated, when you see that you don't have any power to do to achieve what's required from your side, and then you have no choice except to face the reality and put your hands and get your hands dirty, and then you find yourself that you passed, you solved what you was your fears has no meaning. Okay, okay, so
or it's
this
a
create
moment, or it's a moment. Would
yes,
you say that it's a moment that can be overcome?
that creates feelings of joy, the exploration itself. When we explore something new, we feel that we are, wow, I have this intellectual ability, I have done something unique, I have saw something, I have learned something, I have, it's my own creation, I love it. Okay, because it's my own creation. Okay, and we don't love it because it's a creation on its own, no, but because of the moments of sufferings that we had before reaching our goal. This creates more joyful experience to us, more joyful feelings. Okay?
So what you're saying is that if everything were plain, linear, easy, you would not have this feeling of accomplishment, the joy of exploration,
And you won't learn also.
and you won't learn. Yes.
Okay, so let me tell you something. When we are in a good health, okay, we go to work every day, we put our feet on the ground and go, and we are doing this in automatically in a routine way. Okay, but we don't appreciate our health except after we suffer from illness,
Yeah.
and we feel this joy the moment you wake up after illness and you find yourself in a good health.
Yeah.
You feel, oh, I'm great today, because you defeated the disease, you defeated your illness.
Yeah.
You feel, oh my god, my body overcame this, and I'm still surviving. Okay, and you forgot that from just one day ago you couldn't move from your chair, for example. So if it was linear, your body won't raise its immunity system. The illness was good for you because it raised your immunity system somehow. In some cases, I mean. So it's not, and you felt the importance of being in a good health. You felt this thing. You felt that, okay, being in a good health, something really has a value, although you were not valuing it because you were just moving. So when we stumble and fall and then we survive after all those things, we learn, we create something new, we come with something new, we come with something outside of the box, and then we have this joy, the joy that we survived, that we passed, and the joy of having something new, a new creation, a new discovery, a new exploration.
And of course, in this case, it's very important that every student feels that it's acceptable that they come up with something different, provided that, of course, the challenge is met, because you actually put in there a small requirement that the robot should be doing a few things, or the robot should be capable of doing a few things. So at first they fail, or they have problems. They see that they cannot solve the issue right away, so they ask for instructions. You don't give them instructions. They go back. They make mistakes. They enter in dialogue with you, and then eventually they come up with something, and then the whole process becomes very important. So in a way, what you're focusing on, and with tinkering, I think that this is one of the major things. The process is king in this case. that the most valuable things are happening because of this process, and not just because the students achieve a certain goal. It's the process that matters.
Exactly. We can say that. This internal process inside them, and I always receive this feedback. In 60 minutes, we learned about how we can control things, how we move, how cars are moving. We learned about stability. We learned about gravity. We learned about, you know. So if the teacher was going, in a traditional classroom to give such concepts, physics concepts, you have to explain a lot, and take like 3 classes to sessions to teach this. But they saw it, they observe it, they did it by their own, they tried by their own, so they learn it that way. So I receive always this comment from the teachers themselves. The teacher herself or himself learned that way with us. Okay. They saw something they are not used to have as teachers, to use as teachers. It's a tool that teachers are not used to use. Okay.
You mean tinkering?
Yes, and I
tinkering
don't
is
see.
a tool. Yeah.
Yes, it's a mental tool. It's a soft tool. It's not a tool I'm going to
It's not a
materialistic.
technology.
Yeah. But without tinkering, you won't reach, you won't advance technology, because what most of the engineers do when they come with new things, they are tinkering because they don't know what to do. They are doing. So all the time, engineers don't know what they are doing, and they come with something, and then they convince the market with its importance. So let us be able to
we
see
create this fictional story that we came up with this new product or with this new technology because of
yes.
this and this, but actually what we did was just to tinker, and which also means, and now you're pointing to this, that tinkering means also that we are proceeding without actually knowing exactly where we are ending up. So it's a kind of, so of course we may know exactly what we're doing in the here and now because we're highly engaged with what we're doing, but we actually don't see the destination until quite late in the process, because at first we have to do troubleshooting, we have to deal with whatever whatever we have in handy, the types of resources that we have. And then it's only later on that we start figuring out, oh, but I'm actually doing this. So is this something that?
Yes, it happens like that. And if we get back to the robot example with the 2 wheels, yes, maybe they know that they want to reach this destination. They want to build something to solve the challenge, but for sure they never thought that they are going to do it that way.
Yeah. When I mean that they don't know the final product.
Yes.
It's
That's what
more
I would
how,
say.
and
Yes.
and this is also very important because one aspect that I would really stress in tinkering is that it's not that we don't know what we're going to do. There is always some kind of goal, but very often, like in this case, we don't know the end product. We don't know what we're going to come up with.
Exactly.
But we know that we would like somehow to build something that does this and this.
Yes.
And then and then
and that's why I'm saying that when we do this in educational context, you won't have the ability to, like what we are facing now as adults. You don't have the same scenario. Okay, so as adults we tinker all the time, we do this and that, and really the future is not seen for us. Okay. But I want to train the students to be able to deal with those unseen things. So I have to have those fictional challenges like the robot one, the tug of war, to train them to use the same process on that context. So whatever will pop up in the future for them, they will have this confidence. I will troubleshoot and then go from there, because life is not an end product on itself.
Okay? And we cannot turn our life into some kind of end product that that we have figured out before we actually live our life.
We can't predict what is coming next. Okay. So for example, if the student who built this model, okay, he doesn't know, maybe when he's grown up he will make this model and go for an automotive company, and and make it as a product. So he doesn't know at the moment what he can do in the future, or what can happen in the future. He doesn't know. Okay, but what he is focusing on the now, and in the process that he will understand and gain and learn to use as a mindset, or as a tool of thinking to face other life situations.
Yeah, or a strategy. We can also call it a
Yeah,
strategy, because this is in the end a strategy, which is also a tool. The
yeah.
moment in which we become aware, and this is the whole point of this course, the moment in which we become aware that there is this sort of strategy, then we can use it, we can deploy it, and then it becomes a tool. Of course, a different kind of tool, but yes, we can make use of it, especially
It's
because
like, not tell me what to do, otherwise I'm going to cry and sit beside the wall. So this is what, when we give instructions, it's like, give me instructions or I'm going to cry and I won't solve anything. And I had an argument since I was a child with my mathematics professors, because when they were teach us mathematics, we take equations which is not related to reality, grounded in reality. I'm talking about when we take imaginary numbers in high school, for example. So we study imaginary numbers. So I get high scores. I get full scores actually in mathematics. But okay, what is the effect of imaginary numbers in my life? I don't know. In high school, I don't know. And then I used to have arguments with my professors, and they used to reply back to me with something more deep, which is my other colleagues might not be concerned about what we are going to do with this in real life. They concerned to give the final answers. Okay, but when we study imaginary numbers, yes, in communication engineering, my life was around those complex and imaginary numbers all the time. I am dealing with something, not the regular numbers, not the one, not the two, something imaginary all the time. And guess what? Imaginary numbers is the one controlling the signals, communication signals. So now the technology that we are using now, imagine that all those signals coming between us is based on imaginary numbers. Okay, so life is not straightforward. It's not an equation where 2 + 3 = 5 and things are moving
and
that way.
very often, just to clarify this point, very often we have a problem with meaningfulness, and there have been many approaches trying to make education or learning a little bit more meaningful for the students, but very often we do this by reintroducing the cause of meaningful, the cause of the absence of meaningfulness, which are instructions, which in turn produce fictitious situations. And of course, it's very hard to feel meaningfulness when the situation is artificial, as we would say. So what you're pointing
They
to,
don't give situations even, because when you deal with mathematics, you just deal with numbers, okay? Unless it's a story problem.
And there are some students who are teaching math, so maybe they will have interesting observations on this.
Okay.
But what I wanted to say is that what we're taking issue with when it comes to tinkering is the role of instructions. The moment in which instructions create artificial or fictional or fictitious situations, which in the end are known situations, which means that, of course, in the end, the students obviously will be disengaged because the situation that we have created is so alienating, so weird that of course they're not engaged, because it's like, okay, what you're telling me is to follow step by step, to follow the steps, and this is usually quite boring for every one of us, because then we cannot express ourselves, and then there are a number of things that you stressed that we don't have the chance to engage with, like troubleshooting, frustration, fears, but also more positive things like self-expression.
Back to the math thing. When you solve a lot of mathematical questions and you understand it concretely, okay, you build a skill inside you, which is you can form your own problem, okay? Your own mathematical problem. And not also that if someone give you a wrong mathematical problem, you can know what is the mistake of the
Mm-hmm.
problem that is
Mm-hmm.
given to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, because that was from practice. We have always printing mistakes in mathematics books in
Mm-hmm.
school. But when I was solving them, I knew that this problem is not written correctly. There
Mm-hmm.
is a sign here, there is a mistake, there is something. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't reach this level without concrete understanding of what I am doing, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of practice about what I am doing, and a lot of tinkering and failure on what I am doing.
Yeah,
So
and this is also very important. Sorry to interrupt you. And this is also very important because very often we talk about engagement, and it seems to me that the best way to create engagement is to avoid this kind of mindset, the step-by-step mindset, because of course you will have people engaged if have if they have to deal with the real problems, so to say, those emerging from ignorance, from challenges, and so on and so forth.
also, I would like to add regarding step by step that sometimes I introduce a step by step to students
Okay.
in a certain context,
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
where I would like them to be able to, if they face something that it requires to be understood step by step, they would be able to deal with it, but not
Okay.
rely on it.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so they can have this skill. If there is a wrong step provided to them, they know that this is the wrong
Do
step.
they know that? Yeah. Understand.
And also sometimes it's important it's an engineering skill that they have to be able to transform two-dimensional drawings into something 3D.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to build those skills. Another last thing I would like to add to this is something personal. Because I'm practicing this a lot, I started not be able to follow any steps, not as before. Even when I am cooking, if someone give me steps, I won't follow it. So every time I'm cooking in a different way, you know. And when we get something from IKEA, I'm not the one assembling it because I hate looking to manuals.
Mm-hmm.
I get frustrated when I see a manual. I can't.
Yeah, with IKEA,
Nowadays, I wouldn't
yeah.
do.
Yeah, with IKEA, this is an interesting example. You mentioned the word assembling, which is a key word here, because we may say that the opposite of tinkering would be something that we do by assembling what we're given. And IKEA is, we can actually finish on this note. So the opposite of tinkering is IKEA, basically. We can take it as a as a. So what
If
is
I have
tinkering?
something, I will tinker it from IKEA. I will
Yeah.
tinker it. I will not follow the steps. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Well.
this is
Yeah.
basically what I do
Yeah.
because I get frustrated from following instructions.
Yeah.
It's
I
something
understand.
personal, and I don't think it might not be good. Maybe others will see that this is not a good
Well, I think
thing,
that
but I
yeah.
can't. It's
Well, I think that with IKEA, I can just recall a personal example because I remember that once many years ago we were building with a friend who was an engineer, by the way. We were building some kind of cupboard, I think, or piece of furniture. It was rather big, and I remember that we saw a piece and we saw and we told each other, "Oh, but this is not important, actually. Come on, I mean." So we were sort of tinkering, and then the problem is that one of the components got actually bent. It was basically, I
yeah.
mean, we made a
I
total
understand what
mistake
happened. I can imagine what you have done.
because that was a pin that was actually sustaining some kind of other thing,
Yes,
and
yes,
and
yes.
so and so we
Exactly.
we, we actually cracked it, and so it was interesting because it was like 10 years ago. We were both PhD students, and
Hmm.
we were making fun of this, that we were not even able to follow the instructions, IKEA instructions. But in that case, the problem was precisely that IKEA built the whole thing in order for you to follow all the steps. If you don't follow the steps, then you get into troubles, which is the opposite with tinker. Sometimes we also have to tinker with instructions, but that would actually lead us somewhere else. Listen, Marwa, thank you very much
You
for
are
your
welcome,
time,
dear.
and I hope that you will join our conversation.
I hope to.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Okay.
Bye.